Now on to the other portion. I do need to again read my statement. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Withelder, NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest. The matter of agenda item 10, the possible adoption of bill number 458 before this body may have the appearance of impropriety with my commitment and a private interest to Rio Virgin Telephone, my employer. Bill number 458 deals with right-of-way fees. These fees are considered a pass-through, meaning Rio Virgin Telephone collects the fee from its customers and remits the collected fee back to the city. I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation may have the appearance of impropriety, and I therefore abstain from the hearing and acting upon bill number 458. I will turn the microphone over to our Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Withelder.
Thank you, Mayor. And I will stay here rather than fooling around with all those electronics. Thank you. I will read the item. This is a consideration of adoption of bill number 458 as ordinance number 458, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mesquite, Nevada, amending Title II of the Mesquite Municipal Code entitled Business License Regulations by amending Section 2-1-10, fees and insurance coverage requirements for use of public right-of-way and other matters properly related thereto. Now, this is a two-part item. The first part will be item A, which will be open for public hearing, and item B will be a possible action item. So at this point, I will turn it over to public comment. Anyone in the audience like to come forward and speak about the item, please step forward, state your name and address. Well, seeing none, we will close that portion of the item. Anything from council, discussion from council? Mr. Gustavson?
Yes, I had hoped that this item was brought forward by Councilman Hafen. If you don't mind, I would like him to give us a little bit of an explanation of how this came about and why this is important to the community at this particular time, and then I would like to speak.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Be glad to. When this was imposed in 2005, I at the time was on the Bridge Valley Water District Board. I was strongly against it at the time. Had major discussions here with the management, the city attorney, and if it weren't for, I'm going to bring the mayor into this, even though he was asked to abstain, which I'm not sure that was necessary. We were both involved in the process at the time. I'm a firm believer that had we not been involved, that you would be paying the same fee on your water bill. Every time your power bill goes up, this fee goes up. It's 3%. You know, each of you pay it, whether you're a business, if you have a meter, you pay it. The concern I have is the utilities, if they have a problem with the street, they have to dig it up, they put it back to the same condition before the problem. It's really nothing more than a tax, and I'll go back to the situation in 2005, and if you go back and read the minutes, it was a 2-3 deal when it was passed, so it wasn't necessarily highly popular at the time. My take on it at the time, it was a way for the city to find revenue, and that's why it was imposed. The mayor and I used to joke about every week about what it was going to be called the next week, because it went through so many processes and names, and it was really a glorified way to get more tax. I guess the reason I put it on, and the structure that we're doing here, is we're taking 0.5% of the 3% every year, starting in July 1, 2013. So it gives us time to get ready for this, and give it back incrementally. So in 6 years from 2013, that fee goes away, goes back to the businesses, goes back to the citizens. We talk about wanting to help business. We talk about wanting to do things to maintain, and I know there's some that are concerned that pretty soon we'll be driving on gravel roads. I firmly think we have money in the fund to do that, and that's why it was put forward.
Councilman Gustavson.
Okay, I guess I have some concerns. I have a lot of concerns. As a matter of fact, I've got a page here that I have about 20 or 30 concerns about this issue. And yes, I was at those meetings too, back when this was first brought forward, and I remember a lot of the dialogue that went on, and I do remember that one of the concerns was that they needed to build a fund for road repair, street maintenance fund, and that's basically where the money has been going. But before I even get into all these issues, I think that this was kind of an unusual item, the way it was brought forward. Typically, an item like this is going to affect $500,000 out of us, our income every year. Starting, yes, with a small amount of only $83,000, it doesn't sound like much. But by the time you get through, it's very significant. It'll be $500,000 a year. And I was hoping that if we were going to have something like this brought forward, that it would have been brought forward in the normal channels, the way it would normally have been brought forward in the past, and that would have been something that would have been totally vetted with our department heads, the people that are working on the roads every day, and they know what is in the budget, and what's in the future, and what kind of financial needs we're going to need. But it really affects every one of our department heads, because if we lose $500,000, obviously, it's not just going to fall in off the money tree. We're going to have to replace that. It mentions a little bit in here, we'll find a replacement. Well, I'm a little lost on where those replacements. I would be happy to hear where it's going to come from. I can think of one basically, and that's property tax. Nasty word, one I don't want to vote for. But this money has been going to work the roads for a long time, and there's no reason why we need to put ourselves in this time of a financial bind. But since we didn't get a chance, or our staff had no chance of having any discussion on this with anybody before this was brought forward to give their opinions, I'm going to ask each one of them tonight. And I hope I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but I think the first person that might have been talked to before we tried to move ahead on a $500,000 new deficit to try to come up with would be to talk to our financial director. So if you wouldn't mind, what's your opinion of this? And is this something you think that's good for the community or not good for the community? Or?
Excuse me, please. Ms. Hunt, is that allowable or permissible at this point in the proceedings?
It is.
Absolutely it is.
Well, I just want to clarify that for the record.
They haven't had a chance to even make one
no, I understand
word of advice to any of us on it, and we're going to get their word of advice. And if they think it's a great idea, fine. If they don't, okay.
I understand that, Mr. Eustason. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's on board and we all know what we're talking about. So, thank you.
I thought you would have known better, but whatever.
Well, I think, my concern here is, I think, I understand your concerns about the citizens and the businesses. I think we're all on the same page, staff and the council. I think we're all trying to work together for the city of Mesquite. Whether this is a good idea or not, I can't really say. Looking at it from a financial perspective, that's where my main concern is. Reading the bill, my major concern is that this bill required the quote, city to evaluate funding for right-of-way repairs, maintenance, and improvements moving forward. And to me, by passing this bill tonight, that's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, because we haven't had a chance to look at what the impact of passing this bill is going to be moving forward. It's going to be passed, and now we have to, or quote, the city has to come up with some way to look at that replacement for that funding. What I can tell you with a quick review, just trying to run some quick numbers, is that over 6 years, the impact to the city will be about $1,811,000 that the city will be looking in that fund to lose. I haven't been here that long to know the entire history of that fund. I think Bill Tanner would be better prepared to answer that. But what I can tell you is that I know that we've had severe cutbacks over the past few years, and I know what the impact to the general fund has been. In order to keep the general fund whole, we have not funded the technology review and replacement fund, which we used to fund at $150,000 per year. We are no longer funding the vehicle replacement fund, which was at $630,000 a year, and we're also no longer funding the facilities maintenance fund, which we funded at $200,000 a year. I also know that the senior fund is very important to the city, and we fund that at about $100,000 a year. And it is my understanding also that we used to fund the street maintenance fund used to be in the general fund, and the general fund would fund $200,000 a year. Now, when we had the economic hard times, we took that street maintenance out of the general fund and put it into this fund that Billy now has to continue funding for. So now he's being asked to make do with $500,000 less. I also am concerned about C-tax. That was a different animal when I came here. C-tax is something where everything that Mesquite does, and not just Mesquite, but every city in Nevada, the sales tax, the assessed value, they base what you get our C-tax on assessed value and on sales tax. Goes into one big pot, and then it gets distributed based on a formula. They're looking at that formula right now. I don't know what the final decision is going to be, but there is a possibility, a strong possibility, that we could be losing $1 million, up to $1 million in C-tax per year. So what I'm looking at from the financial perspective is the difficulties we're facing, and I don't know how we're going to now come up with an additional $500,000. I know that in that fund we did get some ARRA funding, we got some RTC funding, but that is not a continued source of funding for the city. This is one source that comes directly to the city. It doesn't go to a state pool and get distributed throughout the state. This one comes directly to us. We know what is being spent on, and so it's a fixed revenue that I can count on as a finance director when I'm looking at things. Personally, I know that last month I paid $3.62 for this fee. Personally, I don't mind. That's $3.62 or lower, because it is based on what my usage is, my personal usage. I know that that's going towards the streets. Again, this is just, that portion of it is just my personal feeling about it. So, that's $3.62. I can't tell you what businesses are paying. I don't have that information. I can request it from Overton Power. Whether they can give that or provide that information, I don't know. But as I said, as a staff member, I have not had a chance to review this completely, or no, I can just tell you with this quick review, what the impact is going to be. I would like the opportunity to have a chance to research it more thoroughly, but again, that's your decision.
Thank you, Ms. Cardez. Mr. Tanner, do you have anything to add to this particular item at the moment?
I do.
Thank you.
The street maintenance fund was formed in 2003. In 2003 to 2005, the general fund contributed about $700,000 to that fund. And then we started receiving the right-of-way fee. Over a period of the 10 years from 2003 to 2012, we had a total income on gas tax of $2,197,000. Our right-of-way fee was $3,500,000. And we received $2 million in grants from RTC and American Recovery Reinvestment Act. Programming out over the 10 years, we had a total revenue of $8,800,000 coming into the fund. We've spent $5,350,000 on reconstruction of roads. The reconstruction fund was originally set up for reconstruction of roadways only, no maintenance. We just did reconstruction. All of our maintenance fund was budgeted in a 1065 account, and we budgeted anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000 a year. In 2009, that account was moved over out of the general fund into the street maintenance fund. So now we've taken on a hit of $250,000 of maintenance money for crack sealing, seal coats, micro seals, flush seals, and the general maintenance that we would do on the roadways every 2-3 years, which includes striping. We've got to go in and restripe them. So over that period of 10 years, we had we have a revenue balance of $3,500,000. Now, one reason that balance is a little bit high is in 2011, I elected not to do the $1.9 million that was budgeted for road reconstruction. With the cost of pavement being up higher, we held out, and we're starting right now to bid the 2011 and 2012 project. This year, in the budget that was approved, we estimated $2.2 million we would spend in road reconstruction and maintenance. And so next year, which was in the budget that I submitted, we had a 2013 and an estimated 2014. In 2014, we will wrap up the last phase, which would be another $2 million. So by the end of 2014, with the estimated projects we have on board, to keep our streets in the shape that they're in and the manner that's expected, at the end of 2014, we would have a balance in that fund of about $860,000. And then we're moving forward. One street that won't be included in that would be Mesquite Boulevard. So we have a major investment in Mesquite Boulevard when we have to do the maintenance on it, whether it's crack seal, seal coat, a chip seal, whatever we do there, that's not considered in that 862. And then with that balance at the end of 2014, had we not received RTC money and regional flood, or RTC money and American Recovery Reinvestment Act, we would actually be in the hole. So in order to find funds to replace them funds, it's going to be difficult to do and keep the streets maintained in the manner that we're accustomed to. And you know, I've looked at it. We try to stay on top of the streets. We don't want them to get broken down. If we can mill them and fill them before they start to lose their structure, we have a benefit to that, and having the funds available to do that keeps our streets in as good a shape as we possibly can. I can see that in 2014, as we eliminate this fee, we're going to roll into some periods of time of some pretty heavy investment in Mesquite Boulevard and not have the funding to do that through this reconstruction fund.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Any further comment from council?
We have a couple more people, I think.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sawyer, do you have anything to add, sir?
I really don't have a lot to say other than, you know, when the roads, for example, a water district, when we have a water main break, you know, that road is upheaval. You've got problems, they go in and repair it, but it's not repaired. It doesn't look the same as what we always have. Billy usually goes in and after a time period and has to mill it out, redo it, make it look better. That's all cost. You know, it's, I think we need to take a look at it. It's a lot of money to be losing for the city. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Any other staff reports? Mr. Baker, do you have anything to add by any chance? Nothing from Mr. Baker. Anything, any other staff or?
I'd like to hear what the feelings are of the city manager, since we didn't go to him in the first place with this.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Parson, thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we both staff understands and respects the spirit in which ordinance 458 has been brought forward. But my concerns, I think, echo those of my coworkers. We're concerned about anything that's going to reduce revenue to the city in tough times. Based on some late-breaking information, staff would need to do a little bit more research to come up with a specific number on how many dollars are going to be lost. If the council wishes us to do that, we certainly are ready to do it. But like I said, my sentiments echo those of my coworkers.
Thank you, Mr. Barton.
I have about three more things I'd like to say, and then
Fine, please proceed.
but I'll be done with the microphone. I think that what we have here is an idea that is just not right for where we are economically right now. It's something we shouldn't be considering whatsoever. We've got, not to mention all the other things that have been mentioned, and I've got a list of about 7 or 8 more that are going to impact us financially. But we also need to keep in mind that next year we're going through major agreements with all of our work, all of our unions next year. They all come, for the first time, they're all coming together at one time. Until that has been solidified, we have no idea where we're going to be financially. It would be foolish, and I think it would be foolhardy on our part to start eliminating funds right now. In addition to that, there's been brought forward a economic development agreement for private economic development. Those numbers start out pretty reasonable, but $95,000 that we haven't budgeted, and then we're going to go to immediately we're going to go up to like 190 for 2 or 3 years, and then to 140. Where's that money going to come from? Look, I don't think that, and I think George made the best statement of all, because what George said is, it seems like we should be getting something out of these right-of-ways. You're right, George. That is the city, that is the taxpayers' property. And we have given and it was said earlier, we've given a number of pieces of property to the power company in the past. Probably will continue to do that in the future. But we are not receiving anything if we give this up. And it's probably the fairest way to come up with some funds, because everybody pays a little bit of it. It's not paid, it's based on what your usage is. So that includes renters, it includes everybody. So it spreads that cost out of repairing those roads and the maintenance of the roads and the use of the roads. I just think that regardless of what we do here, if we pull the plug on this, we're going to be looking at another situation similar to what we see in North Las Vegas, where we depleted our whole reserve, and we're sitting here instead of patting everybody on the back. Well, great job we've done the last 4 or 5 years in very hard economic times, and one of the few cities that's been able to survive without major problems. And we can thank our staff for that. They're the ones that put those budgets together. The council tweaked them a little bit, but they're the guys that had to make the tough decisions, and they've made those tough decisions. And I think it's almost an insult for us to come in and say we want to take $500,000 of income out without consulting them and talking to them first. I'm sure it's just an oversight, but I think it's unfortunate.
Mr. Haven, do you have something?
George had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoever had...
Well, I think it's a little bit, I don't have a problem with delaying this to see exactly where we're at with the general fund and what's there. I have no problem with that. And I find it a little interesting, though, that we're concerned about vetting things from staff members when we're talking about $83,000 this year. And I think people need to understand, we keep in mind, 1 meeting we can do this, 2 meetings actually, because we have to notice it and then do the public hearing and go forward. Same thing can happen if we need to reinstate it, so we're not driving on gravel roads as appears some of us might be. But it's amazing. Mr. Sawyer talked back when he was interim city manager, when we were talking about the Mesquite Indoor Sports Facility. We were talking about taking $250,000 one lump sum out of this fee, out of this fund. There was no vetting from any staff members then, and we didn't seem to have any concern about that. So I think we just need to be consistent with the argument. I have no problem with allowing staff the opportunity to, really digest where this is going to take us. But I think we do need to keep in mind, this is a way that, yeah, it's only $3 or $4, but it all adds up. And it goes back to the businesses, and I think that when you look at the general fund and the reserves and see where we're at, sometimes when you give back, you get a lot more in return, and if it's a way that we could do that, that was the intent. It was not any way to try to slide this in quickly, as has been suggested. That's not my intent here. It was to have some discussion. We talk about what we want to do with businesses, and you know, we're concerned about some money. And that's what we need to be. And sometimes maybe it's a little bit late when we look back and see some of the things that we've done in the past. But I have no problem with you know, postponing this to allow Debbie and her staff to go through and analyze it. But I still think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Haven. Mr. Rapson, do you wish to add something?
Well, I've got a question, then also a comment. First question is, and I'm not sure who to direct this to, maybe it's Bill, maybe it's Andy. The people outside the city limits of Mesquite are not assessed this right-of-way fee, or are they?
They are not. They are only citizens of Mesquite, meters that are in the Mesquite area.
So all the people that basically use our roads and use our infrastructure outside the city limits, whether it's transitioning through, going shopping, doing whatever, don't pay the fee.
They do not pay that fee. However, there is the gas tax fee. We have gas tax fee. We have the you know, NDOT RTC. They get a 1/4 cent sales tax.
We pay that too, the citizens.
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody pays that. So this is exclusively just to us. That's inherent inequity I don't like. I inherently don't like taxes. But at the end of the day, I got to tell you, I agree with Councilman Gustavson for the most part here. I mean, the budget, and we'll go to staff. I mean, staff has worked really hard to get us within our income for expenses matching. They've worked hard. We've laid a lot of people off. We've cut a lot of salaries. There's a lot of people that haven't had raises. The street infrastructure is a hugely important piece of our, it's what draws people here. It's what people move here for. It's how, nobody likes to drive in potholes. I mean, I'm from places, I've been to places that it's not good. In this tax, why not the property tax? I mean, I'm good with it. I don't like this tax. I'm ready to get rid of it, but not now. I just don't think this is the time. I think we have too many uncertainties with respect to the income streams. We have not found replacement revenue. We have not found expenses that can be cut alternatively. Until we do, then I have a big concern about this being the time for it.
Thank you, Mr. Rapson. Mr. Lippman, I believe you are next. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, looking at this and listening to staff's concerns, I would have to tend to agree with staff on this. We need I think, an additional analysis of this. Oh, thank you. Additional analysis of this issue. I was thinking perhaps we wait till the C-tax has been settled, see where we're sitting there, and then come back with a couple different scenarios on this. Perhaps 1/4% in a reduction, or an additional number of years added on to the reduction so that it doesn't impact our funds in the long run. So I think it does need a little more massaging at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lippman. Mr. Haven, you next.
Yeah, just one other comment. I think it needs to be mentioned as well that a lot of the streets that we drive on, those were done by developers. That land was part of the process when they came in and they got approvals for the development. I know a lot of the HOAs, they maintain their own streets. So, you know, I understand the concerns. I'm willing to back this thing off and allow staff the opportunity to come back with analysis that they think works or doesn't work. But ultimately, this is a tax on the citizens, and that's fine. If everybody wants to pitch in, that's fine. But at some point in time, if this is going to be the nail in the coffin, so to speak, for the city of Mesquite, then I think we have bigger problems than this, because ultimately, this as the phasing goes out, if we haven't got things turned around in the 6 years that this is proposed, we have some major challenges ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Tanner, is that your lane?
It is,
Thank
and I just had a question. We keep considering the right-of-way fee as a tax, but I don't understand what a franchise fee is then. Is that a tax? That's a pass-through tax. So we're not, we're charging franchise fees to Cablevision and television. Years ago, Supreme Court ruled that you couldn't charge districts a franchise fee. That's how cities receive their revenue through power districts and water districts in the years past, was by franchise fees. And then the Supreme Court ruled that you couldn't do that with those districts. But you could add a right-of-way fee. So this isn't something that's just new and been done in Mesquite. The right-of-way fee has been generated to provide revenue for the right-of-ways, the maintenance of the right-of-ways, the mapping of the right-of-ways. And as Mr. Hafen said, the utilities do put the infrastructure back in accordance to the specifications, and we inspect all the public streets when that's done. But you still end up with a patchwork, you end up with roadways and joints that have to be crack sealed. So there's a little bit of expense there. The discussions we had for years on the right-of-way fee and the right-of-ways that was needed by Overton Power, we dedicated them right-of-ways, and we didn't feel like we were harmed in any manner because we were receiving a right-of-way fee from them for these right-of-ways that they've been utilizing and that they asked for. So in the past, there wasn't any really discussion on buying the 3.5 acres or the 2.5 acres for the substations. We was as a developer in some of the property, and with the right-of-way fees, we just felt like it was a fair situation. And that's where I'm struggling with this. We have franchise fees. Are we gonna now look at not having franchise fees? Because that's another hit to our revenue. And the right-of-way fee is in essence a franchise fee, only differently worded for the power district. So we're talking about getting rid of a right-of-way fee, which is the same as a franchise fee.
Anything else? Is that your light, Mr. Tanner? Yeah, okay, thank you. Any further discussion from council? I will seek a motion, please. Mr. Haven?
I move that we table item number 10 until staff has the opportunity to review the financial ramifications of bill number 458. At that time, we'll have discussion and bring it back. I'm not prepared.
Thank you. I will seek a second.
Excuse me, can we amend that motion that we will reintroduce it? Because if we'll have to reintroduce it at that time when we've got the information.
Mr. Haven?
So we will reintroduce it when staff is ready.
Thank you. Seek a second. You're absent? Nothing? No second? Motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Littman has seconded that amended motion. We'll call for the vote by raise of hand due to the fact that I don't have access to the electronics. So all those in favor? The vote passes 3-1. Thank you. Mayor, come back.
Excuse me, we're at agenda item 11, which is public comment. For those of you having public comment, please step forward, state your name. Remember, we do have a 3-minute limitation, and state where you're from. Thank you.
David Baldwin, businessman in Mesquite. One thing I kind of want to point out in the discussion that just happened was we're giving property, what was characterized as public property in the way of land, to the utilities for use of right-of-ways. And so the Mesquite people were giving it up. But with the tax that's now in place, you're now making or asking the citizens of Mesquite to pay for it again. So we gave up land and you're collecting taxes to go to the city that's been characterized as some income from that land. So the citizens are getting double whammy in this and so on. Thank you.
Further comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and adjourn. Thank you.